My name is Jonathan, and I am 17 years old. Since I shared some of my journey for Disability History Month in 2020, I have experienced both good and less good educational side effects of the pandemic and lockdowns. One of the main advantages has been an increased openness amongst the general population for running events, meetings and training online. For me, this has meant that I can talk at Ministerial Roundtable from a room at school, present to Dundee University students in the morning, Chichester University students in the afternoon, and meet with other Diana Award changemakers from around the world. However, there is nothing like meeting in person, and here, my experience of education and life has been rather more patchy. The issue comes when, in order to accommodate and include disabled people, there is a need to adapt and think outside of the box. This involves effort and, ultimately, an attitude that inclusion is worth it, that we are worth it. Policy could be dictated by governments and organisations, but how that is interpreted is often down to individuals being determined to make a difference. The biggest factor in changing attitudes is in individuals' interpretation, and often this lies in people seeing the value in inclusion. Here is where I see a great opportunity for disabled and young people to flip the narrative from being talked about to having our voices heard and understood. We need increased platforms to share our stories, not to be inspirational, but to show the world how much richer life is when we are a true part of it.
That is why at Teach Us Too, we are keen to share the stories of children and young people whose lives have been transformed by the introduction of literacy teaching, enabling them to share their experiences of life in their own words. For children and young people who are non-speaking, the ability to write even basic words gives them the ability to say anything they want in their own words. It is life-changing and life-giving. But for many non-speaking pupils, particularly those labelled like Jonathan was, with profound and multiple learning difficulties, being taught literacy does not happen at school. Why? Government policy has recently introduced the engagement scale. The engagement model is an assessment tool to help schools support pupils who are working below the level of the national curriculum and not engaged in subject-specific study. Many schools are interpreting it as a licence to only give a sensory curriculum to classrooms of pupils labelled with PMLD. But the issue facing these young people goes deeper than this. It comes back to assumptions made about disability and what is possible. The least dangerous assumption is the notion that if we aren't 100% sure, we should make decisions that, if wrong, have the fewest negative repercussions against the person. In this scenario, which is the least dangerous assumption? We assumed he could learn, so we gave him every opportunity, and it turns out he couldn't. Or we assumed he could not learn, so we did not give him the opportunity, but it turns out he could learn. Teaching literacy skills is the single most powerful thing we can do for individuals who require AAC. As a charity, we know that teaching literacy to complex learners is not easy. It requires reflective teachers who can be flexible and adapt approaches. It's why we sponsor courses by experts in the field like Marion Stanton and Dr. Sarah Mosley to equip teachers with adaptive, personalised approaches, and to give teachers the resources and ideas they need to implement literacy in the classroom for all learners. We started with Jonathan's words, and we should end with them too. for listening to what young disabled people say should be at the heart of all we do. This poem sums up
thinking out of the box. You can't include me, so don't ever pretend my contribution is valuable and that society is richer in diversity, because I know my disability is awkward to accommodate. It is too much trouble. I bring nothing but hassle. I won't believe a can-do attitude can change anything. This is a reverse poem. I will now read it from the bottom line up. A can-do attitude can change anything. I won't believe I bring nothing but hassle. It is too much trouble. My disability is awkward to accommodate. Because I know society is richer in diversity and that my contribution is valuable. So don't ever pretend that you can't include me.